Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News. We got another video for you this Friday. It's a little bit slow on the news day, but Rachel from Joey's season of The Bachelor was on Bachelor Happy Hour. We're going to get into it right now. 3 clips. I'm going to play each of them for you. One is the emotional talk she has with Serena Pitt about the hateful comments they've received on social media. So stick around for that one. But first, let's go to Rachel revealing if she saw her breakup with Joey coming. This again was on Bachelor Happy Hour. Have a listen.
I think towards the end, he and I definitely knew that that's as far as our relationship was going to go.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this before, and I've said it to him. I think my favorite memory is he and I parting ways because you can't force anything. And we both gave it our all. And I know we're both so proud that we both care about each other and respect each other. So yeah, I keep saying we're friends. I'm so glad I can be friends with my ex. That's like a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. Rachel's great. Isn't she fantastic? I mean, boy, the amount of grace she has, if we could just bottle that up and give it to some people, it'd be amazing.
Yeah. Did you see it coming then? Because we obviously saw you getting sent home at the Women Tell All, and they showed it. And it was obviously a very emotionally charged moment. Were you shocked? Or because he kind of made a comment when we interviewed him that made me think that maybe there was like a vibe that the relationship was coming to an end between you two.
Yeah, I wish I knew what he said, but
you can listen.
I'll listen to it. I knew that I was gonna go home.
Wow.
I think it's so emotional because you've come. I went so far with him, and you're pretty much at the end. And so a natural instinct is I was thinking, was I enough? Did I not do enough? We ran out of time? What was it? And it was definitely an unspoken understanding that this was the end for us. So the tears, I'm going to cry right now. I'm not going to cry, but the tears that you saw are all real because it's not hearing my name called. I felt that our friendship was also done and I had no say in it. So a part of me, I was thinking, I was like, oh, well, I know I'm going to go home. Maybe I just shouldn't go to the rose ceremony. That was like what I was really thinking to myself. But I didn't want to take...
I wonder how she knew she was going home and how that presented itself maybe from a conversation in the fantasy suite. You know, maybe it was one of those like, hey, this ain't going to happen type of deals. Or was it like they did the fantasy suite and then they realized, oh, we're just not clicking.
Take away the joy and happiness of hearing your name being called from the other 2 women, just because I love and respect them so much. And I think it'd be a disservice if I didn't show up because I would love to hear my name being called as the final 2, right? So I didn't want to take that joy for the other women. So that's also why I was crying because I knew it was going to happen. I knew this was the end for Joey and I. But again, it was probably my favorite moment of he and I because I could really feel that there was just so much love there, even as platonic love. And I think that's also my favorite type of love. But it's still hard. So it was hard to watch that.
Very interesting. Platonic love, she spoke of, knowing it was ending. Had a very rough fantasy suite, of course, with the injury she had. Not exactly the way she wanted it to go. But maybe that was more, I don't want to say psychosomatic. She surely hurt herself. I think she said in an interview that she's used to jumping into waterfalls where there's water that breaks the surface tension. I don't know if you've ever seen the rocks. For high divers, they'll usually throw a rock or something into the water, and it breaks the tension of the water. So that way when you jump into it, it just doesn't hurt as much, I guess. Either way, that's neither here nor there. We'll get to the emotional conversation they have, but first, Rachel discussing seeing Joey again for the first time.
Let's talk about you seeing Joey again at the reunion in your hot seat. How was that?
I wasn't nervous at all to see him. I was actually very excited because we left. I guess you could say there was no closure when we left, but we both didn't need closure. We knew this was the end of it. Mm-hmm. So I could feel that we both it was just a calmness when we saw each other and just so much love. As soon as we saw each other, it was just like, hey, man. What's up, too?
Yeah, and I feel like you guys had you had great banter on the show. Like he said this at the Women Tell All, but like truly I feel like so many of the interactions we saw between the 2 of you was you making him laugh. And you could tell like there's good banter and like ease between the 2 of you. And I feel like we saw that right away from like the moment he sat down with your little interaction.
Yeah, which is like there's always like I said, a sense of familiarity, a sense of home with the both of us. And, seeing him cry, I think I told him, I was like, I'm so glad you cried when I left because
You did. You did say
did
that.
I say that? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did because I was like, listen, man, if there's no tear to be shed, please redo it.
Yeah, no,
Run it
he
back.
cried. He
It
cried.
always it feels good when they're a little upset. You're like, okay,
I think Serena and Joey, grocery store Joe, excuse me, have done a pretty good job overtaking the show here. I would just give them a little bit more light and a better camera. But again, I think they've done a good job being it that they can interview their guests, at least they're together, because there's nothing worse than these Zoom interviews, but at least they're in the same place here. I think, of course, the audio could be better and whatever, but, it's just there's just no when these Bachelor themed podcasts that are paid for by the Bachelor producers. There's just no heart and soul there. It's just a job. You got to go to your job, do it, ask her a few questions, and then we'll go on date night. That's all it is.
I'm glad it meant something to you too.
I'm like, hey, okay, I want you on your hands and knees, but if not, I'll take a tear or two. I'll take a thug tear. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We saw you speak, Joe and you kind of had your moment. And just he had said that you were giving so much to the relationship that he just couldn't give back. I feel like we saw you really take a turn and open up so much after your conversation with Susan, who was in the audience. How was that conversation? I feel like out of the 3 conversations, like you, Daisy, and Kelsey all chatted with a Golden Woman. You and Susan just had like the best chemistry and like.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's Susan, right? Like, see, it's Susan. Susan is iconic. She is amazing. She definitely, I felt like I was talking to an auntie or a mom in that moment. And that's what I was needing, because in my head, I was like, okay, it's now or never. I open up to Joey or I don't open up to Joey. And she really kind of pushed me into the right direction to just give it my all. And I think even though the outcome is not what anyone would have wanted, it was everything I wanted. I opened up, I pushed myself, and I'm just really proud of, how far I came towards the end.
So what does this mean for you now, stepping into the dating world and back into the real world and being single, but having, I guess, grown in like the relationship sense?
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy with where I am in life right now. I think a lot of us when we're single, especially in our 20s or mid 20s or late 20s, we think we're behind. I'm like, girl, you can literally do whatever you want. Like, you can literally do whatever you want. I'm sure you can too.
That's not what Medina thought.
I was like, I'm sure you still can do whatever you want. But I think right now I'm taking like a step back from the dating world. I'm not opposed to anybody, but obviously my standards are very high. I mean, who can top a date in Spain? I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going from dating Joey all over the world to all of a sudden some guy's like, hey, you want to go down to Olive Garden and get a nice little tour of Italy? She's like, a tour of Italy? I just toured Italy. Why would I want a tour of Italy? All right,
I don't see that with Daisy. And I think
hold
the
on.
fight.
Sorry about that. We're having a little technical difficulties. Hey, it's a Friday. So let's go to our final clip here from the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast. Go listen to the whole episode on Bachelor Happy Hour or wherever you get your podcast. Serena gets emotional. Now, is this a typo? Serena's the one getting emotional talking to Rachel about hateful comments? Let's have a listen.
Anything that we may not have saw with you and Joey, or are you chilling?
That you want people to know?
I mean, I definitely would love to just address again. I think I addressed this at Tell All at the end, was just the comments that people have been making, I guess, toward me, especially after hometowns. I'm not one to really speak up, I guess, for myself. So doing that was like a huge thing for me. And, coming from my Asian background, we're always taught like not to take up space, like not to speak up, just be quiet. And so I'm like really trying to encourage people like who look like me or just anyone of color to take up that space and to speak up. I think people are so quick to realize or so quick to think that it doesn't affect any of us. And I'm not saying that the comments I'm getting are tearing me down. It's just very frustrating. And I wish more people would just be more kind with their words and just know that their words have weight to them.
Frustrating is a good way to put it because you can't fight back. These are just like blind comments from people, and they affect you as if a real person left you a comment, even though they're nobody losers. And again, I have no experience on the end of racism, as far as being the target of this or that. So I can't imagine what it's like to be mischaracterized as someone lesser than because of your skin color, because of the region of the world your parents or ethnicity comes from. I can't imagine what that feels like. And yet this exists. And then what I'm about to say is not to minimize it, It's just like the Pope has haters. You know what I mean? Like everyone out there that does the right thing has somebody who hates them for whatever internalized reason they have. Racism, of course, is internalized. It's something that's passed down to you from your society. It's passed down to you from whatever fears have been put on you from your parents. And it's one of those things that you have generally until, or if ever, you get out, move around, see people that don't look like you, find the empathy in those that are not you. Now, there's two types of things going on here. There's the mean comments from the hateful people, and then there's also chaotic trolls. It's hard for anyone to know the difference between who's who, and more so, who's even real out there. When it comes to bot harvesting, bot harvest go after accounts that have notoriety. Now, I'm not saying these aren't fake accounts. I fully believe they're real, having seen some of the ridiculous accounts that come after me. It's just, I want to tell people, ignore it, and yet I don't ignore it. You know what I mean? I want to say, get over it, ignore it. Those will always exist. It's like knowing that there's always going to be a cockroach in the basement. There's always going to be pests. But I do know that's, you can't just say that. And yet I wish that for anybody. Just if you've never met someone in real life, if they don't have your phone number, their opinion just shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. And yet it does. And I get that. I understand.
And, I'm still just a normal person. I went on the show, and I think going on the show takes a lot of courage and bravery because there's so much that you go through. And, people getting mad because of my skin color, or how I look, and just dropping all these names like Jungle Asian and all these slurs that just are coming from left field, all because I got a rose. I wish people would just know that if you want to watch reality TV, you have to know that people are real on reality TV. And just to be more kind and have more grace on us.
That's all. And just don't be a fucking dick. It's like, it's terrible.
Rachel's shocked there. She's like, oh, he swore.
It's insane. And it's just like, you have to expect some of it, but especially in your case, it's just it's so unwarranted, and it's just, I feel for you. It sucks. And I feel like you are in a great headspace, and I would just stay there and focus on all the good that does come from it, because there is a lot of it. And hopefully the haters, go away, or at least start, or grow up a little bit, because
it is. It's like, if you want to watch a show where it's only people that look like you, you're probably not going to be able to turn on your TV, and you probably shouldn't step outside your house, because that's just not how the freaking world works.
Yeah. Don't go outside.
No, and it is a struggle for everyone in this franchise. A lot of the hateful comments, and something that we as past contestants, me as a woman of color, can definitely relate to your experience to an extent with dealing with that struggle. But thank you for your bravery and sharing your culture and sharing your family and your experiences and your traditions on the show, because it does take so much bravery, and you are putting yourself out there for people to love on and accept, and also for people to criticize and say horrific things in your DMs. Sadly, that is part of being on this show. But I hope that you know that the good that you do and the good that comes out of this and the people you touch is so much greater than... Whew, got a little choked up there for a second, sorry. Than the people that you hurt, that are hurting you.
Stop.
You guys, all right. I wasn't prepared for this. Right now. I think I agree with everything you said. And
this is where Joe learns to be a good supporting partner. When your partner gets emotional, you better come up with something to say.
You're an amazing person, and just know that, and fuck those people. Really. You know?
Facts.
For lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
There it is. F them. And he's right. Rachel is an amazing person. She's glowing. She's radiant. I think she'd be a great bachelorette too. I just don't think it's going to happen. But who knows? I mean, that's what stinks about the fact that there's only one person gets the slot, right? Because I think a season could exist where she's fantastic. And that's what we love about hometowns, is that we get to see the way other cultures act. And isn't that a beautiful part about our country? Whether you go to New Orleans or Hawaii or Rhode Island or somewhere in the Midwest, or wherever you go, there's a different cultural identity. There are different traditions. And sure, we are all connected because we're part of this very large country. But there's so many corners to it all and so much nuance. And yet, to some, a minority, fear runs them. Oh, you do that differently? Oh, you eat fish that way? You farm food that way? Oh, this is gross. The more you get out, the more you go to different cultures, the more you embrace different identities, different ways to do things, you learn my way's not the right way. It's just different from somebody else, and we can all learn from each other. And it's a shame that not everyone gets to feel that higher level of love, but at least we get to see it here between Rachel, Joe, and Serena. Very good chat. All right. Well, I'll be live on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, 12:15 Central Standard Time. I'm going live right now. We'll see you over there. And then we'll be back this afternoon for another episode of Bachelor Rush Hour. Bye, guys.